Your headshot percentage is definitely not where it could be. Many pro players are proof of that, so let's talk about improving your headshot rate. Today's examples come from Bit against G2 in IEM Katowice on Mirage, where he had a 78% headshot rate. We're going to reinforce things you probably already know, and if you don't, you definitely need to know this after this video. And at the end, I'm going to discuss something you've probably never considered. If we are to spectate Bit and how he achieves his headshots, his first kill in this game highlights everything you need to know about getting more headshots. And what is great about this first scenario is that it's not an uncommon one to be in when getting kills on Mirage. If I were to pause this before Jax gets killed and compare it to the crosshair placement of Bit, we can see that Bit is familiar enough with the surroundings to have his crosshair be close to headshot level. Because he is prepared for a CT to potentially be peeking ramp, and has therefore responded with this perfectly aligned crosshair. The main thing about headshots and gunfights in general is visualizing where you are going to take them, and having your crosshair be in the best possible position for the fight. Playing out the clip slower, you can see that almost at all times he has kept his crosshair level with the head of his opponents, greatly increasing the chance of a headshot to happen. In this one clip alone, there are 3 great examples of well thought out crosshair placement. And another good example here of just well-tuned aim with it when you see the kill on Monacy. I will get into that aim part in a bit, but let's take another example of just the simple placement of Crosshair. This time we have him all the way up on the B site, keeping the site locked down. In a peculiar off angle, he is ready to take a fight on Kitchen, and again, if we pause it and show the CT player now, moving across the Bit's Crosshair, we can see that it's in line. And of course, that is exactly how he gets his kill. Earlier in this round, in fact, we see how, although the crosshair placement is good, you're going to find scenarios where you will not just be killing them on the first bullet. Against Nico, we can see the crosshair placement here is okay, yeah, it's pretty good, and Bit gets the kill in a pretty clean spray. What he didn't have in the crosshair placement at the time was the reaction and the aim to get the kill. And if we compare this to Nico's version of the engagement, it's a pretty rushed peek, but pausing it at the right moment, you can see that Nico wasn't actually far off. This goes back to visualizing the fight. Bit has a much better time predicting this fight, as he's the one holding the angle. Nico is looking to clear halls, and simply did not expect Bit to be standing where he was, and so had to recover from where he was going to look at, to where he needed to look at. This is a benefit of holding in this scenario, rather than swinging. And as you can see, swinging may lead to scenarios you're not familiar with or expecting. This means, to make up for the bad crosshair placement, you're going to have to work on the reaction time and general aim to recover from the placement of the crosshair when you either overshoot or undershoot from where the opponent actually is in comparison to what you visualized. So, the main takeaway there is, if you have better crosshair placement, you're probably going to have a pretty quicker time to kill because you're not going to have to adjust for any aim and try and recover from bad crosshair placement. If you only ever had good aim, you will only be taking fights when you physically see them on the screen, and not when you've visualized where they will be on the screen. So, how can we improve in the attributes above and work towards bettering our crosshair placement? Well, the first tip will always be playing more. As you play more, you experience more scenarios and situations. Patterns begin to emerge and your familiarity with the map increase. You'll begin to recognize where it is better to have the crosshair, and it will be borderline instinctive. But that is easy enough to say and not the most satisfying answer to give because it's pretty trivial. The next tip, which is probably the best tip, is to watch demos. I recommend you watch your own demos on where you failed to secure the kill with a quickly and clean manner. I say quickly because not all kills will be headshots, but the most damage is down to the upper part of the agent, the torso and the head. So recognizing when your crosshair should have been higher or lower in your demos and reflecting on where it should be in the future, and then working on this in-game is going to help you see a lot of results. Of course, if you're having a really bad time, you can always watch the pros and see where they place their crosshair placements, especially if you're holding particular positions on CT or you're looking to enter and you need to check out where you're going to have to be looking, but it's always best to look at your own game for your own improvement. Next up is the expected aim training. You can use aim maps, other applications or deathmatches for all of this, but this will help combine a lot of parts to aiming that will increase your ability to get headshots or make fights cleaner. Everyone has a preference in regards to this in their own improvement, and I'm a big advocate for experiencing it in-game. The closest thing to being in a game is probably a retake or a deathmatch server, as that will be the most naturally translated to a game. But it's about experimenting with this one. If you're in a rut, I would combine this with sensitivity tweaks if you'll see that you're overshooting or undershooting a lot. There are a lot of videos out there on sensitivity, but I would just try and focus at this moment on just trying to get the headshot and not faff around with too many settings, unless you've reflected on your own demos and noticed something really glaring. Those are all in-game tips that I find in practice serve me the best for improvement, and I'm sure many would agree. One final tip I want to kind of talk through, it's not really a tip, it's more just some information to educate yourself, is try not to stress. Literally. We're gonna get a bit technical here, so just follow me with this one. If you stress about things too much, your body will increase in cortisol levels, and this happens in all kinds of scenarios. All athletes experience this in their sport and manage it. And you experience it, back at school, at work, etc. But this increase in cortisol can lead to many issues you don't think impact you that bad, but it really does. Recovery and rest will be disturbed, which is a key factor in energy levels and focus. This would then impact your performance in a game and in all other scenarios as well. I would also recommend that if you've been playing a lot of CS and it's been a really heavy CS day, if you're beginning to get more and more stressed, I would recommend to pretty much stop almost immediately, because cortisol levels will also reduce weakness within the muscle, and so with this there's an increase in risk in damaging the wrist as well, and that will be extremely uncomfortable to deal with. Although rarely dealt with by many, we can often keep our stress down in game based on sheer focus of the game. It can be a factor for sure outside of the game, and it's recommended that to tackle this, you would want to take breaks when you'll notice that you're stressed. Managing your time is a great way to reduce stress as well, so a routine for warm up, prac and play could be a great way to maintain your stress. And just removing yourself from the stressful situation or recognizing that something is causing stress, especially towards improving your headshot percentage, will mitigate the impacts of stress drastically. If you like this and you want to see more of it, I definitely would like to hear from you below. The more mental aspects of the game I don't see I've really covered, and if you want to see me citing sources and going in depth on real mental aspects of playing the game and esports in general, comment below. I also have a form that would be great to have you fill out on a project that I'm working on regarding the maps of CSGO. You can also find that in the comments with the link to the form there. I'll catch you all in the next one.